Americans, when polled, say, we don't trust politicians. But then they demand that politicians fix every problem. That's how we got Obamacare, a federal education department, a drug war. The voter says, do something. And it's a natural instinct. It's why I wrote, no, they can't. Politicians promise to solve problems, but they can't. Often we can without government. So, as we begin, what can we do if we disagree with President Obama's big government vision? Mark Meckler and Starlee Rhoades have some ideas. Meckler heads a group called Citizens for Self-Governance. Rhoades is vice president of the conservative libertarian Goldwater Institute. Both say we can return power to the states. So, what do you mean? Start with Obamacare.
The law said states should establish health insurance exchanges. If they don't want to, the federal government will do it for them. 25 states have said, go right ahead, federal government, enforce your policy on your own. We're not going to do it. You're going to have to implement your own law. And that's a great decision for the states because it protects businesses in their state from fines. It stops massive subsidies from being paid out to insurance companies. And it protects people from being tattle-told on to the IRS.
All right, but let's break this down because I don't really get it. First of all, I never got the exchange. The exchange is a place where you would go on the web and it would help you buy an insurance policy. E-insurance just does that at no cost to the taxpayer.
Right.
I don't know why it has to be such a big deal or cost so much. So if these 25 states say, no, we won't set them up, I assume the feds will say, all right, use ours.
Well, that is what's going to happen. The federal government will end up doing an exchange in each state. But the thing that's great about that policy change, having the federal government do it versus the states, is that, like I was saying, taxpayers are actually going to be protected from the very worst parts of the federal health care law if their state chose not to adopt an exchange. So we think it's a great idea.
Because the federal government, under the law, can't fine you if you the $2,000 or whatever it is if you don't join up.
That's right.
That has to be a state doing it?
In the federal law, when it was written, Congress did not give the federal government the authority to assess the penalties on businesses for noncompliance. It also did not give the federal government the authority to subsidize private insurance companies. So without subsidies to insurance companies to take people that they wouldn't normally take, and without fines on businesses who refuse to comply with the law, where is the law? It's nowhere.
And Mark, your group wants to go farther.
We've proposed something called the Healthcare Compact. It's an agreement between 2 or more states. We have 7 states that have now passed it.
That means their legislatures have voted for it.
Legislatures voted for it, and the governor signed it into law. And ultimately, that will be presented to Congress. And if approved by Congress, it gives those states total authority for health care in their states, including makes all the money come back from the federal governments to the states. So this is a way for states to say, we can do a better job. We're closer to the people. And we think that's a good approach across the board, not just in health care.
Right now, the states have almost no flexibility. They have to cover this and this and this, whatever Obamacare dictates.
Right. And so the Healthcare Compact, the beauty of it, it's neither left nor right. It's free market. If states want to have a total left approach to healthcare, they can have a single-payer system. They can opt into the federal government, or they can do like a state like Texas would probably do, is have a very open free market system. We get the 50-state laboratory. We find out what really works.
Let's move on to other topics where the federal government has taken over. The Department of Education.
Department of Education, historically, a total waste. Literally hundreds of billions of dollars spent, no improvement in test scores, federally mandated standards that are doing nothing for our children.
They spend $100 billion a year.
$100 billion a year for no results. Imagine any company in the world doing that. They wouldn't be in business, yet we as Americans have allowed that to continue far too long. It's time to drive that back to the parents. It should be up to the parents. They're the stakeholders in the system.
But states haven't done a great job.
Some states are doing really terrific jobs, though, and one of the things that we're seeing right now across the country, as Mark was saying, the federal government is asking states to homogenize education. Basically, they want every school to be teaching the exact same thing at the exact same time, doing it exactly the same way. And in places like Arizona, we're seeing the state go in the completely opposite direction, where parents are being given the freedom through a new program called Education Savings Accounts to hand pick the exact courses and learning enrichment opportunities that are going to be great for their individual children.
Third topic, marijuana. About a dozen states allow medical marijuana. 2 states, Colorado and Washington State, outright legalization. But the feds keep running raids. President Obama, though he admits he smoked and got high, that was the point, as he said, now he's locking people up for doing what he did.
And it's outrageous. I mean, he thinks that's funny, that he got away with it, and it's ruining other people's lives. The federal government should have never been involved in this area.
So what's ruining other people's lives?
The fact they're getting locked up, they're getting thrown in jail. They're being prosecuted for the things that he did. He thinks that's funny, and he's in charge of making sure those prosecutions go forward. The reality is the federal government should have no involvement at this. At best, it should be at the state level. Let the states who represent the people best make those decisions on their own.
The president did also say recently that he has, quote, bigger fish to fry than people smoking a joint in Colorado. So we'll see how much energy the federal government puts into the
But it's
policy.
not a good way to govern that you might be arrested for anything and you just hope they don't have the energy to get to your thing.
You know what I would argue it is for those in power, that's the perfect way to govern. What they want is they want to create a nation of criminals. There's unsurety about who will be prosecuted. That gives the government the ultimate power. They do it not only with marijuana and drug policy, but in all areas of the law. We have so much over-criminalization, it's creating problems for all of us.
All right, let's talk about guns. Since the Connecticut school shooting, there's this new drive for federal gun control. At the inauguration, Kennedy found people very enthusiastic about that.
Guns need to go away.
What about the First Amendment? Should we do away with that? Get rid of that Piers Morgan?
Amendment should not be gone away with, no.
But we can't pick and choose.
Yes, we can pick and choose.
Fourth Amendment, done.
No,
Seventh, out of here.
No, the fourth stays. That's search and seizure. I like the fourth, and I like fifth.
All right, well, I like them all.
Yeah, well, I don't like the second, so the second can go away.
It's not a buffet, though.
Guns can go away, okay?
So this is an educated woman. She knew what the Fourth Amendment was, and yet she'll throw out the second.
Yeah, these are people with a fundamental misunderstanding of our Constitution, how our country works, the meaning of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was designed to protect us against government tyranny. That is somebody who is in support, ultimately, of government tyranny.
But she picks and chooses her tyrannies.
That's typical.
Finally, taxes. Last week we talked about the beauty of 50 states. You mentioned the laboratory of democracy. At least you can escape your state if they tax you to death.
You can. The problem we have is the federal tax continues to get more and more
onerous. You're still smothered by that. Right,
and frankly, we should start by just repealing the federal income tax. I mean, that's something we really need to start having a serious discussion about. You hear that all over the country. So, and it's not, John, it's not because...
We don't hear it all over the country. You hear it in my audience. If you heard it all over the country, it would be gone. It's not gone. People like federal rules.
One of the things we know, states without an income tax do so much better economically. They have higher rates of entrepreneurship. They do better at reducing their poverty rates. They have higher job growth. They have higher personal income growth. So in the states where we're seeing states experiment right now without having a state income tax, they have weathered the recession so much better. They are doing better. Last week, 4 new governors said they are going to make a push to eliminate their state income tax. I think we're going to see a lot more states compete against each other to attract businesses and economic development in that way.
Thank you, Starlee. Mark?